You have security incidents and the immediate, result, kidnapping, killings, destruction, and the rest. But there's also the ripple effect, as you've seen in Plateau, the curfew that was imposed as a result of the gruesome killing of those travelers. And it's not just in Plateau states. Take Katsina, for example. 12 people were killed over the weekend. In Kaduna State as well, 12 people were killed over the weekend from Saturday to Sunday. So imagine, sadly, people killed, and then the ripple effect on the economy, on so many things. It's a big conversation, but perhaps a silver lining as well, the return of some of the abducted students of Bethel Secondary School. So much to discuss on this, and we have joining us, as you may have seen, Colonel Francis Okosun, who's a former military officer and a security consultant. He joins us from Apapa here in Lagos. Good to have you on the program. Perhaps we should begin with some good news, as it were. Mixed feelings, though, the release of the 15, or return, I should say, 15 students that were kidnapped at Bethel Baptist School. 63 of them still remain in captivity. And I imagine a lot of Nigerians, going through the news this morning, watching us, and they're asking, for how long would we have to still be discussing this?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, indeed. For how long are we going to continue to discuss this? We will continue to discuss this for as long as the basic things are not done. You see, this is my take. We have a country that is supposed to be marked out, delineated, and allocated to certain security agencies to take care of. And I would not hesitate to call out the Nigeria Police and the Department of State Service. There are 774 local governments in Nigeria. Every single inch of that ground falls under the responsibility of one DPO or some commander of the DSS. Now, if anything goes wrong within their areas of responsibility, they ought to be held accountable. So take the Plateau incident, for example. Oughtn't we have had a commander, that is to say the DSS or police, that is proactive enough, prognostic enough to interpret indicators and then come up with prognosis? This is what we expect will happen. And then feed this to the relevant agencies. Until we are able to do this, we are going to keep coming back to discuss this same issue.
So let's build on that. I think it's quite important, the talk about responsibility and ensuring that if people don't, keep up to their responsibilities, there are meant to be repercussions as well. So for local governments, because so far these attacks we see them in rural areas that are not as urban as a place like Ikeja in Lagos, for example. So for a local government or a rural area, a community, which security agents and agencies are responsible? So let's come to the smallest, a local government area, the police, the DSS, the NSCDC, who are meant to be manning those areas?
You just answered your own question. In every local government, you have a DSS officer. In every local government, there is some DPO or the other responsible either in an overlapping manner or in an exclusive definition. Therefore, the DSS officer in, say, Esan West local government, where I hail from, he should be able to account for what happens in that geographical configuration. If it's unable to, then it's either removed or made to account for its lapses. The police, the DSS, they are the ones down to the grassroots. Look, it's a very, I'm sorry, if I sound simplistic, it's very simple. It's very, very simple. If you have a DSS officer in a Apapa local government, for example, and you have the kind of mayhem and gridlock and madness that we have in Apapa, and nothing has been done in terms of analysis, interpretation of indicators to higher headquarters or higher authorities for them to sort, for example, the Apapa gridlock, sort out the Apapa gridlock, then somebody is sleeping. And that person ought to be removed there or made to account for what's happening. The local government is the responsibility of these organizations that I have detailed about.
Again, on the program, we hear that somebody is sleeping. I mean, that's twice already we've heard that in the health sector, now in the security sector. And maybe it's simplistic to ask that who is meant to wake these people up, because their sleep is costing lives, it's costing the future of children. Imagine thousands of children kidnapped just in the space of 1 year in Nigeria. So perhaps that's a conversation we need to have. But help us understand or situate the recent attacks we're seeing, because, I mean, the recent one in Katsina and Kaduna states, 12 people killed in Katsina, 12 people killed in Kaduna between Saturday and Sunday. So help Nigerians understand what is at play here, because you will hear that different things are at play when it comes to security in Nigeria. But for the Katsina killing and the Kaduna killings, what is at play?
See, whatever is at play is something that someone is paid to identify, isolate, and interpret. You see, you can't sit there in the studio, no, I sit in my office here and give you the specific details of what happened in Plateau or Katsina or any other state. But suffice to say that in Basa, local government of Plateau State, the officer who is responsible for that ground ought to have assets, sources, agencies, informants, and, if you like, some technical input or assets to be able to interpret indicators. Look, there are indicators. This is just don't drop. There are indicators that must be identified and interpreted. And once these are identified and interpreted, then the result, which is now intelligence, is fed to the customer. The customer in this instance would be
it is those indications. It is those indications I refer to, because what plays out in Katsina is definitely different from what is playing out in Kaduna. Some would tell you in Kaduna it's communal clashes, ethnic clashes, attacks, and reprisals. And they tell you in Katsina, oh, it's something entirely different, banditry as a result of, is it mining and the rest? Which is why I ask, I believe you've been following some of his indications and projections, just so that Nigerians can understand what is at play in the different theaters of war, as it were, in this country.
Okay. In each instance, these things take place or happen in time and space. Someone is paid to monitor this space and the time frame. Therefore, it is these persons or this person that ought to know. Look, the man in Katsina has a different set of factors from the guy in Plateau or the guy in Lagos, for example. Each is trained to assess. It is intelligence assessment. It's intelligence estimate that you come up with when you consider these factors. Look, I'm not going to be drawn into the politics of what is different between Katsina and Plateau or Lagos. But it is true that whatever these intervening factors are, the bottom line is that there is insecurity, there is death, there is bloodshed, there is mayhem. So how do you avert this? You avert this by making sure that timely information is obtained, it is processed, it is sieved, it is assessed, and then you get intelligence out of it. As it is, intelligence is not readily available because somebody is sleeping.
So wait, is it really possible that, in the case of, say, an intelligence officer who is assigned to a local government to just be there and not gather intelligence? Or could it be that they actually do get intelligence, pass it on, which is what they can do, just get it and pass it on? But you think that they are there, but they are not doing their job. How can you say that for sure?
Chamberlain, if they were there, they assessed situation, they interpreted indicators, and they got intelligence and passed on to higher headquarters, and higher headquarters did nothing, what have they done, or what did they do at the lower echelon? What did they do? You see, the truth is that there is no theater. I'm talking now the operations. There is no operational commander, police or army, that would not succeed with valuable information. However, given that he has the resources to execute these tasks. But if he has actionable intelligence, which he doesn't produce, he's a customer, he's a consumer of intelligence. If he has actionable intelligence, which is provided him, he will do better. Okay, mark my words, he will do better. That is, do better than we currently are seeing.
Yeah, but well, when you say that if that was done, and is there, what did he do? What's your thinking? What should he have done, or what should he do?
Is responsible to a higher authority. Every officer has a level above them that they will report to. And when you report to the higher, you can copy an even higher wrong. Somebody on the next wrong, you have an action addressee and you have an information addressee. You do this long enough and you have your own copies. You do this long enough. So something breaks, something bursts, something untoward happens to your area. You can say, sir, I did this, I did B, I did C. I advised like this, I informed that person, nothing was done about it. If anything was done, well, it wasn't obvious to people. See, Chamberlain, let me give you an example of what could happen. Did you see the traffic gridlock in Apapa? It is an accident waiting to happen. Take the problem in Apapa, take the traffic situation in Apapa. People are seeing just tankers and trailers on bridges and gridlock and all that. Have you considered the possibility of somebody who has evil intention taking advantage of that confusion in Apapa? Has anybody ever thought of that? Look at the number of trailers. Look at the tank farms in Apapa. You have an active naval base with warships, with bombs and armaments and all that. You have the Mile 2 Ocean, you have the Mile 2 Badagry Road, and you have this number of tank farms. All it takes for a conflagration is for one careless cigarette smoker to dispose his matchstick. Boom! One tanker goes on fire, and the whole place. Look, Dante's Inferno will be a child's play, and then we're back to assessing. Oh, what ought to have been, what should have been, who did what? No, come on now. We look at problems in the face and we refuse to address them. That is what has got us where we are, and that is what's going to persist unless we determine to deal with this thing holistically.
They're saying that challenges are first of all local. We understand that. So from Apapa to this larger security challenge that we face in the country, I mean, today you hear the resident doctor say that they feel that they are being victimized. So in the case, the example which you highlighted, where you feel if a lower officer in operations feel they gather information, it's not being acted upon, then they should escalate the matter. So what do they do in this case, especially if they feel, look, I might have tried it before, or I've seen people who have tried it and they have been victimized, and at the end of the day, they fall for it. So what would they do? What would you advise to do, being mindful of perhaps their understanding of what they've seen happen in the country?
Chamberlain, there are back channels that you can use in every instance. A security officer or a security operative is aware of these back channels. These back channels can be used, have been used, ought to be used, and must be used, or else we remain in this quagmire. That's as much as I can say, because every intelligence operative is aware that there is a back channel. Such back channels can be used.
Do you think some people somewhere just want to have their way, no matter what happens, or get certain things done, irrespective of what people think? Because if you keep saying people are aware, they know what they should do, then one wonders, why are they not doing it?
Chamberlain, you are in Nigeria just like I am. You are in Nigeria just as I am in Nigeria. It pains me. You see, it pains to see kids I left back in the army drawing fire the way they do. It's a blooming pity that we have a situation on our hands that we ought to handle differently. And I'm talking about from the local to the federal. I am not going to put this at the doorstep of just one level. Every single level of it is guilty of ineptitude, is guilty of complacency, is guilty of, I don't know. We can do better, Chamberlain. We can do better.
So when you say every level, I imagine you mean every level of government and perhaps people
Yes,
as well.
sir. Yes,
There's
yes,
always
sir. Yes, sir.
there's always a talk about states, how states play in all of this. You hear state governors say, we're chief logistics officers. They say, well, you're chief security officers. And then the president tells governors, go and secure your states. Isn't that why you campaigned in the first place? So let's maybe talk about the role of states, if we can, briefly. What should states, and I mean state governors, be doing? We've heard some of them saying to people, arm yourselves, or at least defend yourselves. Let me be clear about that. So what should states be doing really in this, in the context of the laws we have and the realities?
As things stand, the states have not been able to do as they ought to have done. They probably are incapable. Or, look, listen, it gets down to individuals taking their destinies in their hands. In the Edo Central Senatorial District, for example, there is a self-effort that has just been initiated. They call it the Atanapa. It is the ESA Solidarity Forum determining that they can no longer cope with what is happening. People can no longer go to farms. People can't travel on market days from one village to the other, kidnapping, ransom collecting, and all that. So they came up with the ESA Solidarity Forum. Now, minds like retired Air Vice Marshal Anthony Okpere, retired General Cecily Sekaide, Dr. Dori Okoji, and so on, came together and they mobilized support from sons and daughters of the senatorial zone. And I think only last week or so, they launched this Atanaka thing with vehicles and vigilantes and motorcycles and walkie-talkies and so on and so forth, to go into the forest because they own the ground. They know the territory better than anybody else. Go into the forest and act as first intelligence, information gatherers that they can pass on to state agents or agencies for them to, from then on, act. If we can have every state government, as Governor Basaki is encouraging in those states, we can have every state government and every state governor toe this same line and stop playing to the gallery. Without due respect, most of the state governors that I see and hear are they're not got the hang of the problem, or they are pretending. They pretend, you see, it's lip service most of the time. I have not had the privilege of sitting across the table with any governor. If I did, or if I do, I will tell them what I believe they ought to do differently.
In other words, if they put in place those measures which you just spoke about, you think it will rein in any of those persons who are usually heavily armed?
It will ameliorate. See, Chamberlain, if you have a warship that costs X millions of dollars, it would take actionable intelligence for you to use an exocet missile that costs $50,000 to sink that ship. You sink that ship because you have intelligence, and you get intelligence from a source or an agency. Now, if every state would replicate what I just told you they are doing in Edo Central District, for example, if every state were to encourage that, you would teach the kidnapper, you would teach the abductors, you would teach the bandits, you teach them caution. Teach them caution. That is it. When the man is aware that somebody is on their tail, then they will not be as brazen as they have been. These guys have just been as brazen as they have turned out because there's no deterrence. And deterrence will come in many shapes, shades, and forms. That's my point. You're talking about being armed. If you're armed, you see, but my tactics teacher taught me that you don't test the enemy's strength. You exploit his weaknesses. So we ought to learn to exploit the weaknesses of our adversaries or enemies, and then we can destabilize them. We can render them ineffective. That is the point we are making. We're not talking about, I'm sure the next question you're going to ask me, oh, well, they say they have air defense capability and all that. Yes, if they have air defense capability, where is the National Intelligence Agency, Chamberlain? You have an NIA that is the external security apparatus. They are the CIA that we have. When you brought down Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad, it was not done by the US. I mean, the intelligence was not originated by the US Marines or the US Army or the US Air Force. It was CIA assets. So what is the NIA doing, not being able to locate the fortresses of these bandits and these kidnappers and these hoodlums in the forest? What are they doing? And somebody is a DG there, and the man's appointment will be renewed tomorrow, and you are telling me that the man ought to earn his pay? The man should not. The man is sleeping, and if he's sleeping, give him Valium, let him sleep at home.
Well, I think that's a great point to anchor. With that point, there should be repercussions for failure. I would like to thank you so much, Colonel Francis Okosun, former military officer and a security consultant. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us on the program.